Welcome to the baddest YouTube channel in the land. This is Rod OG, live from the OG community. How we doing today, fam? I hope everyone is having a terrific day because I am. I'm back here with my OG community. But you already know what we here for. I got another banger here for you guys that's going to wreck your brain. Watch this from beginning to the end. But before we get into this video, let's make sure everybody stopping through is hitting that subscribe button so you can join the OG community. All it takes is one click, boop, and then hit that bell notification so these videos can come straight to you. And for my day one OG community members that I got a lot of love for, let's make sure that we hyping these videos up when we can and smashing that like button so that way we can get our videos pushed right through the algorithms so we can be the #1 community in YouTube. Well, without further ado, let's get into this video.
The most disturbing urban legends in every state, episode 1.
In the heart of Oklahoma, tales of strange and eerie happenings have circulated for generations. None is deeply rooted in local lore as the legend of the Shaman's Portal, often called Oklahoma's Bermuda Triangle. Situated in Beavers Dunes Park, a vast expanse of rolling sand dunes, the Shaman's Portal has long been the subject of whispers and warnings. Native American tribes first spoke of the area, telling stories of warriors who vanished without a trace, swallowed by the sands as if by some malevolent force. Now, Spanish explorers in the 1500s, led by Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, were said to have encountered mysterious green lights emanating from the dunes, after which some of the men disappeared without a trace. Coronado himself reportedly wrote in a diary that the place should be avoided at all costs. It's a gateway to another world, he called it. Now, through the years, locals have claimed to witness the inexplicable bright flashes of lights, strange electromagnetic disturbances, and even figures that would appear momentarily and then just dissolve back into the sand. In the 1990s, a team of archaeologists investigating the site was said to have encountered sudden equipment failure and felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if unseen eyes were watching them. And more recently, hikers have recounted chilling stories of feeling disoriented, hearing distant whispers carried by the wind, and finding their tracks mysteriously erased behind them. Now, one local legend tells of a man who ventured too far into the dunes, only to reappear days later with no memory of where he had been. His eyes were glazed over and the sand clinging to his skin. Now, skeptics argue that these tales are nothing more than just results of natural phenomenon, such as shifting sands and isolation of the landscape playing tricks on the mind. But those who have experienced the Shaman's Portal firsthand tells a different story, one of inexplicable fear and the feeling that whatever lurks behind the dunes is far from natural. Whether the stories are exaggerated campfire tales or warnings based on real experiences, one thing is clear: Beavers Dune Park is more than just an ordinary stretch of sand. It holds secrets that even the bravest dare not to uncover.
That time a stranger crashed our Halloween party. We still don't know who he was.
Urban Legends with Photographic Evidence, Part 1. Terrifying picture proof at the end. The Chesapeake Bay Monster. Chessie sightings have been around since the 1930s, but really started to pick up steam in the 80s when photographic evidence became more readily available. Chessie is said to resemble a snake, measure around 30 feet long, and is the approximate thickness of a telephone pole. A 30-foot long snake does not sound like something most people would want to run into. Here's your photographic evidence. Fall for the next urban legend. Unless your name is Chessie.
Scary urban legends in each state.
Did you know that back in the early 2000s, dozens of people in Idaho reported seeing a strange man who looked exactly like Homelander It all started with late-night 911 calls, and every witness described the exact same thing. A tall man in a blue and red suit standing in the middle of the road. He didn't move, didn't speak, he just stared at passing cars. At first, police thought it was just some creepy prank, but then things got disturbing. One driver claimed that when he pointed his headlights directly at the man's face, his eyes suddenly started glowing red. Not from the light, not a reflection. They were literally glowing in the dark. A few days later, an even stranger image appeared online. A security camera at an old gas station captured the silhouette of a man, standing on the roof, watching people below, wearing the exact same suit, with the exact same glowing eyes. But the scariest part happened later.
So, this man that these people are continuously seeing on this road, could this possibly be a super soldier? Could it possibly be somebody or one of the kids, maybe, possibly, from these Montauk projects and some of these other projects where they were trying to work on enhancing humans? It could possibly be. You never know. So we always got to keep our eye out for these things. Get video footage. Spread it out to the world. Well, let's get back into this video.
One police officer decided to investigate the abandoned road where the man had been seen the most. His car was found the next morning, empty. The doors were left open, and burned into the hood was one single word: Homelander.
So here's a mythical creature who's actually very nice if you nail her properly. Okay, I'll explain what I meant by that in a minute, but anyway, the Pontianak from Malaysian folklore. The Pontianak is an evil undead spirit, usually of a woman who tragically died during childbirth, and is often depicted with long black hair and bloody white clothing, very similar to the Japanese Onryo or the Filipino white lady. During the day, it resides inside a banana tree, guess it's a big potassium enthusiast, and during the night, it sniffs out its victims by smelling their clean laundry. However that works. And for this reason, Malaysian people often refuse to leave their drying laundry out at night for fear of attracting this. She will try to trick her prey by either changing her form or imitating the sound of a crying baby or a laughing girl. Oddly enough, the more quiet the sound, the closer she supposedly is. And when she catches you, she'll use her long fingernails to rip out and devour your organs. And if your eyes are open, she'll suck those out and eat them too. There is a way to defeat this creature, though. Apparently, if you take a nail and shove it into the nape of her neck, she will transform into an actual beautiful woman and then be your wife. And apparently be very good to you. That's a new one. Until the nail comes out, at which point she'll revert. Let's put some super glue on that nail. Hey, am I the only one who thinks it's a bit alarming that somebody came up with a story where to get a woman to behave, you have to shove a nail into her neck? What exactly brought about that conclusion?
I grew up in a town called Peoria, and we had this legend.
Hold on. Before we get into this urban legend here, the Dingaling Man. Yo. Yo, the Dingaling Man. Listen, do y'all literally see this shit? The Dingaling Man. Can you imagine that? The Dingaling Man is coming for you. Like, no. I'm heterosexual. So let me guess what we get into this video. He only come for women. Oh, Lord. The Dingaling Man. This is killing me right here. But let's get into this video and find out what is going on with this Dingaling Man.
Of the Dingaling Man. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but there was this real guy, which everyone in town called the Dingaling Man. And he was like this 6'4", 6'5", tall, scary-looking dude that had these very long dreads that like covered his face and these very creepy eyes, and like he never cut his fingernails. And you would see this dude everywhere in town. And like when we were kids, we'd be playing at the park, or we'd be in a field playing football, and there would be the Dingling Man just standing there, like staring at us. And he would talk to himself, like he would, like laugh, and then he would like hum sometimes, and that was the scariest because he'd be like hum, 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 hum. And so like when you would hear that, it just freak you out because this dude was staring at you, and like he would chase, a lot of us kids around town and stuff, and like people would like see him like just jump like over 6-foot fences like it was nothing, and this dude would like climb up trees and stuff. And one story that I heard about the Dingling Man that's probably the creepiest was there was this kid, he was coming home from school, he unlocks his front door, goes inside, goes upstairs, and when he gets ready to go into his bedroom and he turns, there is the Dingling Man standing by his window with the window like wide open, and he's sitting there going like humming. And so this kid just like ran downstairs, runs out the front door, and his dad like right at that time pulled up from work, and he's like, dad, like the Dingling Man's in my room. And so like the dad grabs a baseball bat and he goes into the house, goes upstairs into his room, and like he's gone, but he could see that the window was open, so he knew someone was in his room, and so he locked all the windows and the doors.
He's a fisherman. He said after a certain time, being on the shore of the beach is dangerous because that's when they arrive and they take people with them. Point blank period. And everybody's compound on the coast got electric charged wire on top of the fences, barbed wire, and they all got these signs, danger. And everybody got their security. They say after a certain time it get dangerous. Be inside the gate. Don't go to the water because, none of us can swim good enough to get you back from them. I spoke to a guy, he said he went for a night swim, and when he got back to shore, he was standing there with his towel, and he looked, and he seen a merman standing there. The hair was not like you see in the movies. He said he had these large black eyes, and he said he got this compelling feeling to go into the water. And he said he glad he fought the thought because he said he felt like if he did, nobody ever see him again. And when I went to Puerto Rico, the locals said the exact same thing. Exact same thing.
There's videos now in Mexico of people that are given the same description.
For sure.
Recently, that just happened a few weeks ago, that they seen one that walked onto the shoreline.
That's the thing.
It's got legs.
Apparently, the males don't have the fish appendage at the end. They got legs, but they have webbed hands and webbed feet.
Okay.
So this is the description everybody's getting.
Urban legends that turned out to be true. Not all urban legends are just stories. Some of them are chillingly real. Let's dive into some urban legends that actually turned out to be true. Number 1, the Bunny Man. The legend, a crazed man in a bunny suit terrorizes people near a Virginia bridge. The truth, in the 1970s, reports emerged of a man dressed in a bunny costume threatening people with a hatchet. Police received numerous complaints, but the man was never caught. While exaggerated over time, the Bunny Man legend started with real events. Number 2, the Polybius arcade game. The legend, a mysterious arcade game appeared in the 1980s, causing strange side effects like seizures and hallucinations, then disappeared without a trace. The truth, while the game itself might be fictional, its origins stem from real cases of arcade players experiencing health issues like seizures due to screen-induced effects. There were also rumors of government experiments linked to arcades during the Cold War, adding fuel to the fire. Number 3, the killer in the back seat. The legend, a woman driving at night is warned by a gas station attendant that someone is hiding in her back seat. The truth, in 1964, a similar incident occurred when a New York police officer discovered an escaped murderer hiding in the back seat of a car. The urban legend took on a life of its own, but the real-life crime was eerily similar. Number 4, Cropsey. The legend. Cropsey is a boogeyman who kidnaps children in Staten Island, New York. The truth. The legend became terrifyingly real when Andre Rand, a janitor at the Willowbrook State School, was arrested in connection with the disappearance of several children in the area during the 1970s and 80s. Rand's crimes blurred the line between myth and reality. Number 5, the legend of black-eyed children. The legend. Children with solid black eyes knock on doors at night, asking to come inside, bringing an overwhelming sense of dread. The truth. While the paranormal aspects remain debatable, reports of encounters with unsettling children resembling resembling the description continue to surface. This legend may be based on real-world encounters with eerie individuals. Sometimes the line between myth and reality is thinner than we think. Which of these disturbing legends creeps you out the most?
This is one of the most terrifying urban legends I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. But in Canada, there was this legend that one night a bunch of people saw a bright blue light in the sky, and the next day an entire village of people disappeared. But it turns out that legend is rooted in something that really happened. This is coming from this week's episode. I have a whole series on urban legends that ended up being true, and it's a very scary listen. So in Canada in 1930, a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle was riding in the river in his canoe when he came to a village he had seen before. Except this time when he came upon it, it looked like everyone had left in a hurry. Food was still cooking, and a bunch of dogs were barking and super hungry as if they had been left behind. But the strangest part of all of this was in the middle of the community, there was a grave that had been disturbed. And that reminded the fur trapper of a very scary story he had heard. The legend of the Tornrak, which was this demon that supposedly stalked the area. So he starts looking for someone who might know what happened to these people. They were a nomadic people. It didn't make any sense that they would have left all of their stuff behind. And that's when he finds a man in a hospital who was potentially part of the village. The man is so freaked out. He won't say anything at first, but eventually Joe gets him to talk, and he recognizes one word that the man says. Tornrak, the name of the evil deity that was potentially in the area. The police basically don't believe any of this, but they do acknowledge that before the disappearance, they did see blue lights in the sky that no one has been able to figure out what they were. I get more into the theories of what may have happened in this episode, and I also talk a little bit more about other urban legends that ended up being true.
This is the creepiest urban legend that actually turned out to be true. In the 1970s, a film crew was shooting an episode of The $6 Million Man inside of an old funhouse ride called Laugh in the Dark. The ride was meant to be spooky. It was lined with glowing lights and creepy looking mannequins. But people began to notice that one of these mannequins looked a little too lifelike. Whispers started circulating among carnival workers and guests, and some said that the figure looked so real that it had to be an actual body. Eventually, these rumors turned into an urban legend claiming that someone had died inside of the funhouse and had been turned into a prop. But nobody took it that seriously because it was just a legend after all. Until the camera crew arrived to film the show. When one
Yo, I know it ain't just me, but doesn't this right here remind you of that movie that just recently came out called Freddy's, where the people were taking their kids to this place where it had animatronics, and then the kids were getting missing, found out that the man that was there was killing the kids, and then after they shut the place down, the animatronics that came alive and were still drawing people there to try to kill them. I'm telling you guys, they don't get these movies from nowhere. These movies happen in real life. It is known the government has a budget for movies. For movies. Yes, the government does. They actually put some of this stuff that's actually happened in reality. They put it in these movies so they can condition everybody, the public, you and me, condition us to be okay with this stuff, to make it normal. So when these things are happening, there's not an uproar. But always pay attention. These things are not just stories. Some of them have truth. Some of them have some lies. But are you willing to risk that is true? Let's get back into this video.
One of the crew members tried to move the figure from where it hung. The arm broke off. He later said it looked like beef jerky inside, and that's when the realization hit. This wasn't just a mannequin after all. Police were called, and it was soon confirmed that the prop was actually the mummified body of a man named Elmer McCurdy. Elmer was an outlaw from Oklahoma who had died 65 years earlier. He was killed in 1911 during a shootout with law enforcement after a failed robbery. After his death, Elmer was was taken to a funeral home, but when no one claimed him, the undertaker refused to bury him without payment. After preserving his body, the undertaker, disturbingly, propped his body up and displayed it inside of the funeral home with a sign that read, "The bandit who wouldn't be buried." People would pay a nickel to see Elmer this way, and even more disturbingly, they would drop the coins into his mouth as payment. His body stayed on display like this for 2 years before 2 men showed up at the funeral home claiming to be Elmer's long-lost brothers. They were actually carnival owners. They took Elmer's body and began displaying him in their sideshows. Over the decades, it was sold and traded so many times that people eventually forgot it was a real human being. By the 1960s, Elmer's body ended up with a company that supplied wax figures and props to amusement parks. And that's when Laugh in the Dark got their hands on it. A real human body that they displayed as a prop in a spooky funhouse for children.
Yo, man, this thing right here gonna mess y'all head up, bro. All since I heard this, my head been jacked up, man. So we gonna all sharing the feeling, man. This guy, it's a recording. He finna tell y'all how this lady went from this to this. And these pictures was taken at the same day, less than 24 hours apart.
So she was one of the first black women to be a cop. And all through the hood, man, we just, everybody knew her growing up. And it just, we just never thought that, she would decide to, go that route. Real smart girl, I'm talking about real smart, real intelligent. Always can figure stuff out, whatever you came out of which she solved it, help you with it. She knew how to work on cars. She knew how to, do little stuff around the house. She knew how to cook, clean, like just knew everything. But now all her women's in her family, they was all, maids, they work around the houses of rich white peoples and stuff like that. But now, she said she didn't want to go that route. She wanted to be a cop. She wanted to have some power. She wanted to stand for something. And not that, not that being a maid or something. It's just, you don't stand for nothing. But just in her mind, you young, you want to make a change. You want to be, so that's the way she felt. So she went out there and got that job, and it was good for her. Like, she even got some little respect around the office. Now, I heard she had to bust a couple of them good old boys' heads. But eventually they learned to respect her. But now one night, she was out in a car with her partner. Now all of a sudden, they get a call. Now her partner, he responded to it. He driving, she in the passenger seat. So down they get there, it's an old warehouse. An old warehouse abandoned. And supposedly there's some screams or something like that coming up out the warehouse. So they get there and they stand around and, they look around. And her partner ain't really want to go in. But this lady here, she wasn't scared of nothing. I guess growing up in the ghetto just, make it a little tougher than the average. But this is sad ending to this story. And this is what she looked like after they found her this night.
Hundreds of children haunt this Alabama playground. Hello, I am Urban. Over 100 years ago, in Huntsville, Alabama, hundreds of children got wiped out by the Spanish flu. But since so many children needed to be buried, the cemetery filled up, so they had to bury some of us at the Maple Hill playground right outside the cemetery. A couple years later, a serial unaliver buried his victims' bodies before he got caught with the other children at the playground. Now, we are all stuck in this park, but we don't want to leave. At night we all come and play on the swings and the jungle gym. Many people have reported hearing us laugh and scream, and some have reported seeing glowing lights at the park.
Who is reporting this? First of all, I'm not living in any place where masses of kids have been killed and their souls are still walking. Unsettled vengeance. No way, Jose. I'm moving Because why would I need to live near a park? And I'm an adult. Unless I have children. And if I have children, I'm definitely not living near a park where ghosts, kids that have unrested souls are walking around and traveling. No way, Jose. What are we thinking? We got to be smarter than this. Or somebody needs to come in and have them do a ritual. They need to maybe dig those children up if they haven't already and give them a proper burial. Give them a proper burial. That's all it would take. Bury them properly. Not at a park. Come on now. We got to do better. I understand they may have ran out of room, but there's room other places. You didn't have to bury kids in a park. Like, think about that. You buried kids in a park that was next to the cemetery. Expand the cemetery. Come on now.
But if you ever hear us, don't come, or you'll be stuck here too. We can't help but hunt you with our Spanish flu. It's contagious, and will result with you getting buried with us.
Bro, there's some crazy urban legends out there. Have you heard, aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light?
What? What are you talking about?
Okay, so the story goes that there's these two roommates named Sarah and Emily, okay? Sarah wants to go out to a party, but Emily has this huge exam coming up, right?
All right.
So Sarah says, hey, Emily, let's please go out. We're going to turn up tonight, have a lot of fun, right? Emily's like, no, I can't. I really have this big exam. I'm going to go to the library. Sarah's like, whatever. So they both head out at the same time. Well, after being at the library all night, Emily decides that she's ready to go home and sleep. She's exhausted. She gets back to her apartment. It's pitch black, but she hears like kind of breathing heavily. She reaches out and she touches the light switch, but then she thinks to herself, if I turn this on, it'll wake her up.
Yeah, it'll wake her up.
So she gets in the bed and she hears the breathing all night. So she thought about saying something, but she didn't. She just fell asleep. The next morning, she wakes up, rubs her eyes, stretches. She looks across the room and she sees Emily laying in the bed, but Emily is covered in a pool of blood, and written on the wall in Emily's blood says, aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light? So the breathing was actually the murderer lying in the bedroom with her the whole night. If she would have turned on the light, she probably would have been killed.
Imagine walking home alone at night and hearing heavy footsteps behind you. When you turn around, nobody is there. But according to an Alabama legend, something is. For over 100 years, residents of Abbeville, Alabama have told stories about a mysterious creature known as Huggin' Molly. Witnesses describe her as a giant woman standing more than 7 feet tall, dressed in dark clothing, with glowing eyes that pierce through the darkness. The legend says Huggin' Molly hides in the shadows, waiting for people to walk alone at night. She never attacks, she never speaks, at least not at first. People claim she suddenly appears behind them without warning, then wraps her long arms around them in a crushing embrace, before letting out a blood-curdling scream directly into their ear. Terrified victims would run home, claiming they had been chased by a giant woman who seemed to vanish into the darkness. Some reported hearing her footsteps long after she disappeared. To this day, the legend of Huggin' Molly lives on in Alabama, and locals still warn children not to wander alone after sunset. Because if you hear footsteps behind you, don't look back. She might already be reaching for you.
Well, I'll tell you this. If you're ever alone, if you're lonely, maybe you want a hug. Go get hugged by Huggin' Molly. That's crazy. So it's a 7-foot woman just out hugging people and screaming in the air. Now that's crazy and weird. Weird as it can be. I don't know about this one. 7-foot woman hugging people from behind and screaming in the air. What happened? What's the story behind what happened to Huggin' Molly? Why is she hugging people? It's crazy, man. Some of these urban legends is wild. Let's get back into it because it's getting real interesting.
The creepiest urban legend from each state. Maryland. The Goat Man. Connecticut. Annabelle, the Haunted Doll. Arizona. El Chupacabra. Loa. The Black Angel. Minnesota. The Wendigo. Hawaii. Night Marchers. West Virginia. White Things. Pittsburgh. Charlie No Face.
In the small and quiet town of Elmendorf, Texas, just outside of San Antonio, something strange started happening in the late 1920s and early 1930s. Women were disappearing. Not all at once, and not in any dramatic way that would immediately raise alarms. One by one, quietly, with no bodies left behind and no clear answers. Authorities investigated, they asked questions, and every single time they walked away with nothing. The town was small and nothing really happened there other than people having fun at a local bar that was owned by a man named Joe Ball. You see, Joe was born in 1896, served on the front lines of Europe during World War I, came back to Texas and spent the Prohibition era as a bootlegger, and eventually opened his own saloon once the ban on alcohol was lifted. He called it the Sociable Inn, and it sat on Highway 181 in Elmendorf, a busy, loud, popular place that people drove from miles around to visit. Joe was charming in the way that certain dangerous men are charming, unpredictable, always surrounded by women. Locals described him as a creep, but the kind of creep that everyone still showed up to watch. What they came to watch more than anything was what Joe had built behind the bar, a concrete pit with 5 live alligators. Yep, you heard that right. Joe charged people to see them fed, and he made a full spectacle of it. Every Saturday night, the Sociable Inn turned into something between a saloon and a circus. People would get drunk, go out back, and throw in whatever live animal they had managed to bring. Stray dogs, stray cats, raccoons. The crowd would cheer. Joe would watch. It was entertainment in a small Texas town, and it kept people coming back. But after a while, the same people who came to watch the feedings started doing the math. Joe Ball had alligators. Joe Ball was not a stranger to throwing live things into that pit. And now women who had worked for Joe, slept with Joe, argued with Joe, were vanishing without a trace, one after another, with Joe offering the same explanation every time. They quit. They moved on. They found something better somewhere else. The rumors began to take shape. People started saying the women weren't leaving town. They were ending up in the pit. For years, that was all it was, just a rumor with no concrete evidence, something people whispered over drinks at other bars, careful not to say too loudly in case Joe happened to be nearby, because Joe had a temper, and Joe had a gun, and Joe had already threatened at least one neighbor with that gun for complaining about the smell coming from the direction of the alligator pit.
Every state has a creepy urban legend, which is why I'm going to be telling you about the scariest one from each state. Night Marchers, Hawaii. The Night Marchers are said to be the ghostly spirits of ancient Hawaiian warriors. They only appear at night, marching in formation to the sound of drums. If you hear them, run, because looking directly at them will lead you to to an early death. Water babies, Idaho. People claim to hear ghostly cries coming from the water near Massacre Rocks. According to legend, mothers would submerge their babies in the river to spare them from starvation.
Massacre Rock? Like, the name explains it all. Women were killing their babies there, drowning their babies there to save them from starvation. That don't make a lot of sense, because when they breastfeed the baby, ain't that where a lot of the nutrients will come from? So it sounds to me like it's just something going on in this area, probably driving people crazy. Some extraterrestrial that nobody is realizing is driving these women to kill their babies. It has to be. That's not a normal thing. No woman, some women, don't get me wrong, some women mentally can't handle it. But for the majority of women, they're not carrying a baby for 9 months, then have them, and then decide they want to drown them in the water to save them from starvation. It doesn't happen like that. Women, most women, are highly attached. There may be 1% of women that out here that just can't, they lose it postpartum or whatever may be going on. It could be an entity taking over their body. They could be possessed, and then they kill their children. But for the most part, the average woman isn't doing that. So for a town to have a known river where women were drowning their babies, it's crazy, and it's something going on there.
In some versions of the story, the babies survived, grew gills, and are out for revenge. Homie the Clown, Illinois. In the 1990s, there were several reports of a creepy clown driving around Chicago, attempting to lure children into his van. Now,
I know everybody as kids knew about Homie the Clown. Everybody know who Homie the Clown is.
the police ultimately decided that it was just a children's story, but many insist that it actually happened. Dogface Bridge, Indiana. A couple once died on this bridge when they swerved out of the way to avoid hitting a stray dog. It's said if you walk across the bridge at night, you might see a woman with a dog's head. If you see her, pray that she didn't see you, because the consequences could be deadly. The Villisca Axe House, Iowa. Now this one's not really an urban legend, because it actually happened. Over 100 years ago, 8 people had their lives brutally ended within this house, and the person responsible was never caught. The house is now considered to be one of the most haunted places in America. Now I've actually stayed the night in this house, and I gotta say, it definitely lives up to its reputation.
Ever go to Camp Taylor? 2017, and a group of hikers decided to visit one of the country's most haunted destinations. As they entered the camp, a fog set in. Then came the feeling of being watched. They reported seeing a ghostly figure standing in the fog looking directly at them as they were setting up for the night. Then the sound of children laughing, but it was the screams that kept them up all night. One man even said that he could feel the hand of somebody on his leg as he was trying to sleep. The next morning they packed up, cut the hike short, and left as fast as possible, vowing to never return.
The creepiest legend in every U.S. state that won't die. New Jersey. The Jersey Devil. Ohio. The Loveland Frog. Texas. The Donkey Lady. Louisiana. The Rougarou. Kentucky. The Pope Lick Monster. Virginia. The Bunny Man. Michigan. The Dogman. Oklahoma. The Deer Woman.
So my grandma told me about this couple back in the Mississippi Delta that never left their porch. She said their house was like up off in the woods and you really wouldn't even know it was there because the driveway to it was all overgrown and everything. So when they was on their way from school, they would cut through the woods to like kind of make them a little shortcut, and that's how they first seen the folk house. And they said every time they walked past the house, the couple was always sitting on the porch. Now, they would always, like, they weren't right next to the house. They'd be like off up in the woods some, and the couple would always be there. She said she had never see them talking to each other. She had never see them like moving around, cleaning up, sweeping, eating, like no, it'd just be there, just be sitting. So her big brother got the idea that they should sneak in there one night and see what's really going on, man. So what happened is one night they got up around 3 a.m. They waited till, all the big mom and them was sleeping and all that, and they snuck out. And when they snuck out, they climbed out of their window and even was smart enough to leave, like, clothes piled up in the bed just in case somebody got to go check on them. So when they making their way through the woods, they said they was terrified because, back then everybody was superstitious, man. It just was how life went back then. So they making their way to the house. Now, while they making their way to the house.
But before we get into this story, OG community, comment down below. Which one of y'all in the OG community is getting up at 3 in the morning to sneak out of your house, to track through the woods, to go and look at something that's already creepy? Not me. No, sir. No, ma'am. Not me. And if you are willing to do that, you crazy. You got to be. You are crazy to get up in the middle of the night, track through the woods to go into a house that's already creepy. But without people that are bold like this and courageous, we wouldn't get some of these stories. So I'm glad they're doing it, just not me. Unless I got a weapon, if I have protection, I'm cool with trying and looking for anything. I'm not scared, but I don't also want to die. Let's get back into this.
House, they get there and they see it off in the distance. Now, of course, they ain't had no street lights and all that. All they had was the moonlight. So as they coming up on the house, they realize that they see the couple still sitting there.
This is one of the scariest urban legends I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. So there's this stretch of road in Turkey along the D100, and the urban legend says that if your car breaks down on the side of this road, do not get out of the car. Because according to the locals, one night, a few people got into an accident, and when they got out of their cars, they all melted on the road. Well, this is coming from an episode I just did on urban legends that ended up being true, but it turns out there is a reason that they all spread this legend around. In 1965, a passenger bus was traveling down this road when it crashed into a big truck carrying a bunch of water, and it caused water to spill out all over the road. The passengers got out of the bus because they were okay, but when their feet touched the pavement, their shoes started to melt, and it felt like their feet were on fire. And that's because the truck was not carrying water, it was carrying nitric acid, an acid that dissolves skin on contact. As they were on the ground crawling away from the accident, the acid was melting the skin off of their bones. And the worst part in all of this is that a group of 12 people saw a bunch of water that had collected in a drainage ditch and thought they should jump into it to protect themselves. But really, they jumped into a pool of undiluted acid and dissolved within moments.
This is the real Scooby-Doo. He wasn't a cartoon character. In 1969, police found a Great Dane outside an abandoned amusement park in Coolsville, Ohio. The dog was covered in blood, not his own. Nearby, 5 teenagers were missing, their van still running in the parking lot. Search teams followed the dog through the park. He led them to every body, all 5 teenagers, hidden in different attractions. The fun house, the roller coaster, the haunted mansion. The dog sat beside each one, whimpering, refusing to leave. The killer was never found, but the dog stayed at the crime scene for 6 days, guarding the bodies until animal control finally caught him. His collar read Scooby. Police reports noted he had a strange habit. He would bark at empty spaces, growl at nothing, as if seeing things others couldn't. Hanna-Barbera producers read about the case in true crime magazines. They were developing a show about teenagers solving mysteries. They used the dog's name, his breed, his nervous behavior. The cartoon premiered September 1969, 3 months after the murders. Every episode, Scooby sees monsters that aren't real, runs from dangers only he perceives. Because he's still looking for what killed those kids, still trying to warn someone about the thing he saw that night in Coolsville.
If a kappa challenges you to sumo wrestling, accept but use their weakness. A fisherman named Ichiro was working by the river when a kappa emerged from the water. Green skin, bowl of water on its head, webbed hands raised. "Wrestle me," it demanded. "If you win, I leave your village alone." Ichiro had no choice. The kappa was strong, impossibly strong. It threw Ichiro to the ground. He remembered his grandfather's trick. Kappa are honorable. If you bow, they bow back. The water spills, they weaken. Ichiro stood and bowed deeply with respect. The kappa paused, then bowed back. Water spilled from its head bowl. Its grip weakened, legs shaking. Ichiro grabbed the kappa, lifted it, and threw it into the river. It surfaced, refilled its bowl, and nodded. "You win. We have a deal." But the next morning, Ichiro found fish on his doorstep. Fresh. A gift from the kappa. To learn kappa wisdom, like, share, and subscribe. And leave a sumo emoji in the comments.
One of those stories, probably the most bizarre if I'm being honest, didn't actually happen in South Africa, but somewhere totally unexpected. It was the night of February 28th, 1989, in the small mountain village of Miyakoji in central Japan. The sky was dark and snow was falling, the air was freezing, and 23-year-old Yumi Tanaka, an elementary school teacher, was trying to get warm in her small apartment after coming home from work. Then, her phone rang. Her heart sank and a pit formed in her stomach. She knew she shouldn't, but she answered the phone anyways. The voice on the other end was strange and muffled. It was a man's voice, and kind of high-pitched and irritated. The man went on to say horrible things about Yumi's body and how he wanted to do equally horrible things to her. Her heart started racing and she quickly hung up. This wasn't the first time this had happened. She had been getting these calls for weeks, and nothing she said on the phone ever made them stop. Her friends could see how much this was affecting her too. She was always stressed out. She was losing the light in her eyes, it seemed. So, one day, one of her friends, this young man named Naoyuki Kano, came to her. He was willing to do anything he could to help, so he offered to use his contacts in the local government to try and trace these calls. This was so nice of him. He definitely didn't need to do that, but Yumi really appreciated it. Unfortunately, nothing ever came of it, but it was still so nice knowing that Naoyuki really cared for her. Later that night, Yumi made sure that the door was locked and she tried to relax. She walked across the living room to her bathroom. She flipped on the light. The simple, dark room wasn't very inviting. Her toilet wasn't necessarily a nice high-tech toilet like you see in Tokyo. It was a squat toilet, basically a hole in the ground that led to a septic tank outside. She was about to use the toilet when she noticed that there was something unusual in the hole. She peered over, and there at the bottom of the toilet was a shoe, a man's shoe. She jumped back in surprise. How could that have gotten there? Had someone been inside of her apartment? She looked around, almost expecting to see someone in the corner, but there was nobody there. The only other thing that made sense to her was maybe someone had thrown the shoe through the lid of the septic tank outside. But to do that, they would have had to open the lid, which would have caused more issues. So she had to go outside and see for herself. She put on a scarf and a coat and unlocked the door. It was freezing outside as she trudged through the snow around to the back of her apartment. And there she found the large pipe of the septic tank sticking out from the ground. And for the second time tonight, a pit formed in her stomach. The lid at the top of the pipe was askew. Someone had tampered with it. She almost just ran forward and closed the lid herself, but something inside of her told her to look down inside of the tank. And it was far worse than she could have imagined. The pipe went down a few feet and then off to the side where it opened back up under her toilet. It formed kind of a U shape. And this time, when she looked down, she saw more than a shoe. She saw a foot sticking out from the bottom of the pipe. Someone was stuck inside of her septic tank.
Thank you again for joining me here at the OG community. I told you I was bringing those bangers, and here's another one. Make sure you guys watched it. Comment at the bottom. You know I respond. Until the next video, peace and love.